Hello, and welcome to Tips from the Triangle, your weekly gardening show with me. I am the artist AmarA. I'm not an expert on gardening, but I love to garden. I love to learn about it. I love to talk about it, and I love to share it with you. All right, before we begin, let's take a nice deep breath together. Are you ready? I gotta tell you, folks, this has been the kind of 3, 4, 5 days that I really, really enjoy. It's been a lot of overcast, a little bit of rain, but not crazy, heavy, mad, windy, insane rain. Just little bits of rain. And it's been so pleasant. I love the smell of rainy days. I love the feeling of overcast days where you can just go run around outside and not worry so much about heat stroke. Not that there are overcast days where it's super, super hot, but recently it's been, right in that sweet spot, right in the 70s, maybe a little high, but just there. And and I have gone outside and gotten stuff done, which is great, because one of the most frustrating things to me is when you have really nice days, but for some reason or another, you don't make it outside. Like, if you're working and you're busy and there's all types of stuff to do, well, fair game, but like the worst is kind of when you just can't quite get yourself to go out when it's nice. And then you go out to take the dog and you're like, oh, it was actually really nice out here this whole time. And I've been doom scrolling on my phone. But I didn't do that this time. I mean, I definitely have done, but not to the exclusion of doing other things. I've gone out. I mowed the lawn. I did a bunch of weed whacking. I trimmed a tree. I weeded out a garden and put mulch down. I've done some planning, some thinking and some planning and some plotting. Just the things that need doing. One of the things that I struggle with this time of year is getting rid of flowers. Like, we've got a patio and there's gardens all around it because, of course, if I'm digging stuff up and making a patio, it's not going to be like grass to the patio. I'm going to put in gardens. And, of course, I put a lot of the things in the gardens far too close. I don't have that sense when I do the planting of how things are going to grow over the pathways. And so now there are like pathways that are covered. And it's not just me. Some of it are plants that self-seeded, including a whole bunch of tomato plants that are literally, legitly growing from between my patio stones. And I just don't have the heart to like tell them no. They're too far grown now to like move them. If I were going to pull them out, that would be it for them. And so now, and they're just these like, they're spoon tomatoes. They're these teeny tiny tomatoes. They're so good. They're like not even the size of cherries. They're not even cherry tomatoes. They're like blueberry tomatoes. And they're great. And I love them. I did them one year. They came like free with an order I did. And I planted them and they were adorable. And they got everywhere. And now they grow everywhere. And, like the ones that were right in the middle of pathways, I earlier on said no to. And now they're like ones that are along the edges. But of course, now they've grown up and they're getting big and they're starting to impede on the pathways. I did go out and edit some of the Queen Anne slays, some of the calendulas that were just growing everywhere, and you literally could not walk through a path without having them brush against you. So, you know, I struggle with that. I don't really want to edit my plants. I don't want to cut them back. I don't want to lessen them. And yet, for functional reasons, I need to. And it's a struggle. What do you struggle with in your garden? Everybody's got their own struggles that are weird, pointless struggles like that. My dad has struggles with plants that take over. So he'll plant like something like Veronicas, which are these beautiful plants. They grow up and they have like a floppy white cone at the top. And they just took over, and he had such a hard time saying that they were getting out of hand. Like, he kind of expanded the garden first and it was like, oh, this just is. And then he had to admit that they were getting out of hand, and so he gave them to me. And now I've got them, and they got out of hand in a garden, and I'm working on getting them out of that garden and into places where I'm quite happy for them to get out of hand. I love that about different plants. You know, there are plants that absolutely will go nuts. They'll get out of hand. Catnip, anything out of the mint family, Veronicas. There are a lot of plants that will absolutely get out of hand, but sometimes you have just the right place that's exactly what you want. I tend to try those plants in places where I have trouble controlling what's there. You know, places where it just goes to weeds every year. Every year I cannot keep up with it. And if something's got to grow there, I just as soon it be something that I choose grow there. And so I've been trying different things in those spots, trying catnip, trying Veronica, trying a couple of other plants that I've got that just go to town. And sometimes they take, and sometimes that's not the right environment for them, or they are not stronger than the weeds that are already there. And the struggle continues. I mean, even with those plants, even with things like, Veronica and hostas and mint plants, you still have to give them help. You still have to get in there and weed things out and, give them the best start and then give them some help every year. But when you do find a plant or a combination of plants that will just run wild in an area that's difficult, it's like the most magical thing. There are spots in my property that they're hard to mow, or you just forget about them. They're kind of out of sight, out of mind. And having a plant that you're happy to have there take over and just say, don't worry about mowing here, mate. I got it. This is my spot now, is wonderful and magical. It's amazing. You know what else is amazing? Is growing food. I'm not sure I've done especially well at the growing food this year. I always kind of feel like I haven't grown enough food. But the food that I have grown this year has all been food that we have liked eating. So in the spring, it was the peas. We got peas out in a cold frame, and they were the first things that we had to harvest out of the garden. And because I did some succession planting, we kept on having peas for a really long time into the summer. We had lettuce plants. We've had a couple of carrots. Now, carrots have never been super successful for me. And the fact that we've had any carrots this year feels like a big, big success. And we have had enough to supplement, at least to be the vegetable, not just supplement, be the vegetable for at least 2 meals. That's not nothing. The peas have gotten us through a lot more meals, and the lettuce was super helpful when we went through a period of making sandwiches a lot. We could go out and we had 2 or 3 different options for lettuce. And we've gotten a couple of radishes. And now it's time that we're getting beans. And this year, now I love beans just in general. I will plant beans all over the place with other plants. Not looking to get a harvest from them, but because they fix the nitrogen in the soil. They're super, super helpful. And usually I've done vine beans because I've got just a lot of places that things can grow. But this year I knew I had some things that I was going to be putting in containers that I was going to want to grow beans with. And so we found this bush bean and it has done spectacularly. I may never grow a vine bean again. That's a lie. I'll throw them in with the corn every single year. But in my gardens, in my kitchen garden, I am all about the bush bean now. They are so easy to deal with. I've got like 4 plants growing in concrete blocks. We've got the like breeze blocks, that create our raised gardens. And in the center, I've got other things growing, but I planted these in the like empty void spots of the breeze blocks. I've used them a bunch of times for different things. They act like containers. They do limit how much things grow there, but often what I'm putting there is marigolds and, other things like that. And so it works very nicely. This year I threw some beans in and that has been like the perfect container for them. All the other places that I've grown them, they've done all right, but they've been picked over by insects. They've been picked over by rodents and other pests. And they just haven't really grown to their full potential, even though they have all this space. But in the void spots of the breeze blocks, of the concrete blocks, they have done so well. We've got like 4 plants right there in a row. And you go out and there's just these like 6 to 9 inch long beans hanging off of them in spots. And you can just go right over and pick enough for a meal. And, leave the little babies alone, knowing that 3 days from now you'll go out and those will be your dinner that day. Absolutely amazing. I am excited to see what my potatoes and my sweet potatoes do. Those are all in containers. They're all doing great. We haven't had a problem with Japanese beetles so far this year. And I've found that I used to plant a big potato field. I did a potato field on one side and a cornfield on the other side. And then every couple of years, I'd switch them. But the potatoes, the Japanese beetles were just brutal. Just brutal. And by the end, they were coming so early that I hardly got potatoes that were the size of my thumb. They were just, and we also had problems with rodents, and it was such a thing that I decided to just not do potatoes anymore for a little while. But we love potatoes. And so I decided to do them closer to the house in containers. And I've been doing that for the last 3 years. And so far that has been really, really great. I don't have those fancy containers that like you can see the inside and you pull up a thing and the potatoes just fall out. I don't have anything fancy like that. It's on my Christmas list, but no one's gotten it for me. So I'm really just using large garden containers. I've got 2 of those that I'm using. They're not super large, and I'm curious to see how they'll do with it, because I would imagine that they'll want a larger pot, but I don't know. Maybe they'll just fill up the space in there. I have no idea. The other thing that I use is like totes, like plastic tote containers. We were given a couple of them, and so I decided to be a mad woman and drill out the bottom to let the water out and turn them into garden containers. They didn't have lids. I kind of feel like a tote without a lid is half a tote. We didn't have much purpose for it inside, so this is as good a use for it as any. And I've got, I think, 2 or 3 potato plants planted in there, and the plants themselves are doing really great. I do a thing with potatoes where you start by putting a little bit of dirt down and you put the potatoes in and then you cover those up. And as soon as they start growing, you add more dirt on, you add more dirt on, you add more dirt on until you've got the dirt like all the way to the top of the container. And that way the plant has had to grow this super duper long root. And ideally what that'll mean is that it has this super duper long root that it can then grow all these potatoes off of. And it keeps everything growing at different levels. Whereas if you plant it right in the middle, the plant's going to go down a little bit, but mostly it's going to spread out. And so you'll have potatoes at one level. It's a thing I saw. I'm trying it. So far, it's worked well. I tried it last year, and it seemed to work really well, even though I was kind of late on my whole potato game. I didn't get them in, and then we had a huge drought. I'm so grateful for that this year. There's been a fair amount of rain. Sometimes it's been a little bit too intense, but mostly it has been nice, inconsistent little showers that's just kept everything watered, kept everything growing, kept the grass green without the need to water things. Which is so nice. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing not to have to do that one job. I still have to water all of the plants that we have on the porch, which is not an insignificant amount. One of the things that I've got on the porch right now are my Christmas cacti. I had one from a couple of years ago. I got it at like the Dollar General, like you do, and it has done fairly well. I have replanted it a couple of times, potted it up, and it's doing good. And the other 2, I got at a garage sale earlier this year. The West Side had a bunch of little garage sales, and I went to this one woman's, and she was an older lady, and she had gardens instead of grass, just everywhere. Everything was gardens, and I loved that. And she had Christmas cacti, and she was like, "Oh, please, here, take them for $1. I just want them to go to a good home." And if she's listening, I did tell her about this program, and if she's listening, I want you to know that they're doing fantastic. They're all the sprouts are putting out new leaves. I'm watching them, giving them water, but not too much. And they are growing. I really love them. I potted those on as soon as I got them home too. And I know that there's some time that's soon, it might be now, that like I need to take those away and put them in a closet if I want to have them flower. But honestly, I'm not sure I really care about that. I'm so just enjoying watching them grow. Because cactuses are kind of like, they're kind of like chains. So each leaf grows from the last leaf. There's no like stem that they grow off of. So there's a last leaf, and then there's this tiny bright green thing that starts growing on it, and it grows and it grows, and it's a tiny version of the same leaf that just grows until it's big enough, and then another one grows on that. And it's a magical process. I love seeing it, and I love going out and seeing all of the bright green baby leaves on these dark green plants. I also love seeing flowers on peppers. I struggle with peppers every year. Every year I do like okay with them. They take forever to start. I do them all by seed, and they take forever to start. And then when they start, they do really well for a while, but then you have to like pot them on and pot them on and pot them on. And if you don't keep potting them on, they'll just stop growing at some point. You know, they'll just be like, okay, this is as big as I can get. This is as much space as I have. So this is the size that I'm going to be. And it doesn't matter if that is 4 leaves and tiny or 20 leaves and huge. You can't pot them on too big, right? So you can't take them out of like a tiny thing and put them into a massive thing, because they don't like that. You have to just keep upgrading the pot that they're in one step at a time. And at some point, like, I run out of pots is really what happens. All of my biggest pots have got potatoes or sweet potatoes in them. I don't have containers enough for the amount of peppers that I have, and I don't have containers that are big enough. And I can't plant them in the ground because they don't have enough time to fully mature because of how long the seeds took to start. So I just have so many pepper plants that will grow like 2 or 3 peppers tops. And I hopefully will get those peppers somewhere around the end of September. But I've had a lot of things that I started late this year. I've got cucumbers that are just now flowering, where other people are doing pickles right now. I've got a giant pumpkin plant that has about 6 leaves on it growing in my old compost pile. I look around at the corn that's growing. I mean, it's growing commercially, to be fair. But it's like head height, and mine is like chest high. And some of that is because it's the last year of using this cornfield. And even with the amendments that I put in, even with adding nutrients to the soil, even with using the 3 Sisters method, it's still tired. And I know that. And some of it is that I did not actually get that pumpkin to sprout until June, and I did not put it into the ground until July. So if I get any pumpkins out of it at all, I will be absolutely shocked. And yet, that really isn't the point. To some extent, the harvest is the point of gardening, in that we are putting plants in the ground that make food, and we wish to get food out of it. In the sense of, there's just so much that needs to go and be covered by the scant amount of money that all of us make. Each individually, you know? I mean, when you go to the grocery store and it's an outrageous amount, it's 2 or 3 hours of your time to get the stuff to live for another couple of days. You're definitely like, okay, and I bought these plants and I need some help here. And these plants are my help. I get that. And I'm not minimizing that at all. Absolutely. We're all doing our best to get through this crazy time. And part of doing our best is planting a vegetable garden and getting a harvest. However, if in the craziness of your life you did not get your pumpkin to sprout until June and you did not get it into the ground until July, that doesn't make planting it any less valid. Even if you never get a pumpkin off of it, sometimes it's about having the growing things around you. And I think if you understood me at the beginning of this episode and understood why I have such a hard time editing the flowers so that I have my pathways, you'll understand why I think that it's a good thing to plant a pumpkin plant that you're not sure you'll ever get pumpkins from. And I don't think I can explain it any more or any better than that. So I think I'm just going to leave you to chew on that and on your beans and carrots and whatever else you've got growing in your garden. My friends, enjoy. Enjoy the smells, enjoy the flavors, enjoy the time. And no matter what else you do, I hope that you keep growing.